Hello everyone, and welcome to the agenda on a Wednesday with me, Costa, and today I am with the Information Permanent Secretary, Mr. Nick Mangwana, to discuss on topical issues that are taking place in our country, and those include the updates on the COVID-19 pandemic, how safe are our quarantine centers. We are also going to discuss about the e-learning, the infrastructure that promotes whether is it conducive and whether is it going to apply countrywide. And we are also going to discuss partly on the abuse, the allegations of the abductions recently of the MDC Alliance youth members, including Harare West MP Joanna Mamombe. Mr. Mangwana, I must welcome you to the agenda on a Wednesday.
Thank you, Costa. It's been a long time.
Sure. Let me start by jumping straight into the issue here, the COVID-19 pandemic. And in Zimbabwe, we recorded this in March. I just want to find out from now, 2 months later, what is the state of COVID-19 quarantine centers precisely?
Well, firstly, quarantine centers were established primarily to deal with people that are coming into the country. Because you may recall that when the president pronounced the different lockdown measures, we did not stop Zimbabweans from coming home. But we were very clear from the start that the disease that we had in this country had been imported. And any spikes that we would get would be from people that are coming into the country. But we would not stop our citizens from coming within. Therefore, we established quarantine centers for people. At the moment, we've got about 47 quarantine centers throughout the country. And these are the places where Zimbabweans come in, or people come in cases where we are getting foreigners who are sneaking in, because we are not accepting any foreigners. We're only accepting Zimbabweans or people who are legally resident in this country. So when they come in, they go there for a period where we check them. If we believe now they are disease-free, we let them to mingle with the communities. So, are they safe? They are as safe as the people that bring the disease or that come with the disease. Whilst they are there, we try by all means to ensure that there's all the safety measures in place, such as social distancing, masks, and all the hygienic measures that we have. So yes, they are safe. But as you may recall, again, if you think back a couple of weeks, most of the recent positive cases were in quarantine centers. So it means the government's position that we need to keep an eye on people that are coming into the country. Whilst we do what we need to do within the communities, but more so on the people that are coming within the country. So yes, they are safe. We've contained this disease. Well, by yesterday, we still had 56. I haven't checked today's report, but we had 56. And out of those 56, we actually had 9 Malawians who have gone home. So if you remove the Malawians who came in and were positive and they went home, it means we have, to a large extent, especially considering the traffic that we have coming into the country, contained.
I ask this because there have been reports that do indicate that some of these quarantine centers are not conducive for people to habitate, like shortage of water and among other poor amenities that may expose these returnees to the spread of the COVID-19?
Well, we haven't had those situations. It basically means that situation does not obtain. But yeah, the quarantine centers differ. They differ in quality, they differ in the services that are there, but they don't differ in food. Because, as you know, I'm saying we got 47 in a very short space of time. Now, it's not easy to bring out 47 places which are going to look after people that are coming in and continue running the country as if not everything is normal. It's not easy. But if you go, for example, to Zipam, everybody speaks so highly of it. You go to other places, I think Mkoba Teachers College, people speak very highly of it. But then you go to another place, people may say, this particular amenity is not as good as the one we experience in this place or the one at that place. So places differ from one another in as much as we're using colleges, as you know, we're using polytechnics, as you know, and they in themselves differ in terms of the infrastructure there, in terms of the services part. When it comes to food and everything else, and the supplies and provisions, they are standard.
The issue of security and how these people can expose other citizens to the spread of COVID-19. I've just read the newspaper today, the Herald, which indicate that about 118 people have escaped from these quarantine centers. That clearly indicates some carelessness in terms of how these centers are being managed.
No, it does not reflect carelessness. It actually speaks of an empathetic approach. Because if we had turned these quarantine centers into prisons, that would be a completely different ballgame. These are not prisons. Zimbabweans are coming willingly home. When they come home, we talk to them and say, can you be in this place for a time? And then we put a perimeter fence and ensure that there's security there. But people do sneak away, people run away from jails.
Why are they running away from these centers?
You see, people, when they come into the country, remember these are people, some are coming from, a good number is coming from cruise ships. So when people get into this place, when they came to Zimbabwe, they wanted to see families. They wanted to go home. Now you're taking them, you're saying 21 days before you see your family. Some have been away for 18 months, some have been away for even longer. They miss their families. Naturally, I hated boarding school myself. Once in a while to sneak out and try to go home. Boarding school where I was there to learn. But now you are an adult who have been put in this place. Naturally, you don't want to be contained when you've committed no crime and so forth. So the urge is to go home, and people do run away. And in most cases, I will give you an example of people that went away from Mabikwa High School. A good number came back on their own. Because when they go there, when they go to their communities, most of them were going to Binga. When they go to their communities said, no, we don't want you here until you are cleared there. Their families said, why are you putting us at risk? So they went back on their own. Some were apprehended, of course. So this is a situation that obtains. So they are part of the 118 you're talking about. Some of the 118 are Malawians who ran away and went back home because they had border jumped from South Africa.
Well, are you so sure that they went to Malawi? They could be still in Zimbabwe.
No, they are not. They had border jumped.
They ran away. The Malawians ran away.
You want an answer or not, Costa? If you want an answer, I'll give you an answer. But if you want to speak, I'll let you speak. So here's the answer. They had sneaked away. They were border jumped from South Africa illegally because we're not allowing foreigners. And then they were caught. And they were rounded up and they were tested and whatever. Some of them, the whole argument, they were actually violent, was we want to go home. And from there, they went to jump onto some trucks, some haulages. And when they were tracked, it was found that they'd jumped into trucks which are going to Malawi, cross-border trucks. So that's how sure we are that they went home.
We have seen also some demonstrating at Belvedere Teachers College. Could this indicate that it is because of the conditions, or some reports also indicating that they were asked to pay about $65 United States dollars for testing?
That's what we got. What we got was that there was a delay in discharging people, and they wanted to go home. They wanted to be tested. Results come, they go home. And they'd primed themselves to say, we're going to say 8 days, 10 days, or whatever number of days. But now beyond that, their patience was tested, and then they started smashing up things. And well, some went away, but some went to the dining and started smashing up plates and everything, and the police had to intervene and to bring some order. Yes, I want to make it very clear that it's not government policy to charge for testing people. No, it's not. But in a situation like this, there are always entrepreneurial people who are very enterprising, who try to make money and out of situations. But government policy is that we do not charge to test you. But obviously, like in any situation where somebody wants their own private care about anything, you're free to have that. As I said, quarantine centers are not prisons. We have even discussed the issues of using some open prisons as quarantine centers, and the idea is should we do that? We know the open prisons are almost open, but the idea that the connotation of a prison does not augur well, may not augur well with the people. So that's the whole point. They are not prisons.
That position, of course, is adopted, but let's look also on the other part in terms of the other citizens in the country. They do have problems in terms of coming to work and going back home. There is transport blues, if I can use that phrase, and you have seen the situation, what you'll be obtaining at Copacabana, the main bus terminus in Harare, and among other centers, among other designated pick up and drop off points. And
That's correct.
It's a very deplorable situation, if I can use those words. Do you have an alternative to make sure, because these zones are now becoming hotspots?
We have a solution. Zupco got more 300, I think, combis on the roads. Some are right now, as I'm talking to you, the CMED is checking other people who are coming into the Zupco franchise. I think that's our primary solution. The well-managed Zupco combis. Because remember, we are limiting the number of people that are going into any sort of transport. That on its own presents some challenges, in the sense that if a bus was supposed to carry 80 people and you're making it carry 55 or 36 people, then you need more buses. But yes, government is bringing in more buses on the road. And the only thing is it has to be roadworthy. It has to be checked by CMED to say it's safe to do what's doing.
Why is the government not considering allowing the other private transport operators to help the Zupco buses, because it is being overwhelmed?
They are not safe, Costa. They are not safe. You know how congested people are. We may, if we're gonna go down that road where 18 people, 20 people, or in some cases 8 people are in a shika, then we may as well just remove the lockdown, because one person goes in there with that virus, boom, we got an explosion.
This is the concern now, because when people spend hours waiting for a bus at Copacabana or even at Total, the junction of Chinoi and Samora Machel, they do have a chance even of contracting the disease. So the issue is of waiting long hours for these buses in a queue.
We have to balance things. I understand the predicament, and I'm really, my sympathy goes to the people that end up waiting long. But when you are out there, and the Zimbabweans are very educated people, they understand why they are doing what they're doing, why they have to social distance. When you're out there, it's better you're out there. I'm talking of your head, 3 heads are in one place, in a mshika, breathing each other's, we are exhaling. It doesn't work. It's even worse than any other scenario. You are talking of people out there in the open than people in a boot of a car. So, it's not ideal, it's not right, and government is doing something about it, but it's the better of the two evils.
In the wake of COVID-19, let's look at this one, the education sector, in how it has been impacted as well, because schools can't open now. But as a relief, you have opted to adopt the online education. But the in-learning infrastructure is not conducive for all Zimbabweans to adopt the online education. What is the strategy that you have as a government to make sure that everyone is not being left behind?
We're going to open schools. We are in the process of consulting and putting mechanisms in place to open schools. We've got the statutory instrument already out. You think you heard the president's pronouncements. Schools are going to open, Costa. Very much so. We are only doing it in a phased way, in a more calculated and measured way, rather than a reckless dash to open schools. But we are going to open schools. Whilst those who are benefiting from the e-learning, and I'm told they are nearly about 1.5 million people, and they're not all, because we got about, I think, around 3.6 million Zimbabweans who are learners. So we are opening schools. But at every school that we're going to open, each and every school, we want to ensure that the people, the learner, is safe. The teacher is safe. The people home are safe, because when that people goes back with a virus, or it will be a problem. If rather that people goes back home with a virus, it will be a problem for the community. So we are putting these measures in place. That's why I can't tell you exactly which date we are opening the schools, but we only open the schools when safety measures are in place. Like we are saying, a lot of things are opening. Even sporting facilities are opening. But again, in a very considerate, in a very responsible, in a very measured way.
But the point is the e-learning infrastructure. We're talking about online education. This is the point. You're talking about opening schools.
The problem you have is you are so hanging on this issue of e-learning. I'm telling you that the school in the rural area is going to open, and open very soon. We are only making sure it's safe. You are still going back to e-learning. I'm telling you, the school in the high density area is opening. I acknowledge that there is some e-learning going on, and I acknowledge that there is about 1.5 million people who are benefiting from that scheme. We also have measures where we are having radio lessons, which are coming on board as well to assist in the issue of delivering lessons. But over and above that, schools are still going to open the same way every place, every other enterprise is opening, every other activity of daily living is opening.
What I want to hear is whether you have a strategy or whatever measure to make sure that the e-learning infrastructure perhaps is conducive, because even if these schools open, we cannot rule out the benefits of adopting the e-learning.
Okay. Now that's a completely different question, because you premised your question on COVID-19 and everything. So e-learning outside the measures that are in place, outside the lockdown laws, outside statutory instrument 183 all the way to 115. Now, that's a different conversation. What are we doing about e-learning? Like I said before, e-learning is already in urban areas. In rural areas, we are bringing in solar aided computers, solar panels to aid to our information centers and so on, so that the rural student, the rural learner can access the internet. The more we roll out access to the internet in the rural areas, the more people can get e-learning. But we acknowledge we are nowhere near covering everybody. If I said our learners are around 3.6 million, and at the moment people who are benefiting from e-learning are about 1.5, that tells you we got about 2.1 million at the very least people who are outside that benefit. And it's not going to be a quick fix, a quick solution right now, but going forward, because we want to bridge the rural-urban divide, we are going, instead of slowing down those who are in urban areas, we are going to try to accelerate those in rural areas to catch up with those in urban areas. That's the strategy.
If you looked at even the South African case, I just read again in this morning that after trying to reopen the schools, some teachers have tested positive and now they have closed. And this is the case even in other countries like France. After opening schools, about 70 cases have been recorded. So are you not afraid that when you open physically schools, this could be spread the COVID-19?
We have done things, Costa, in a very measured way in Zimbabwe. Well, this is why our numbers are where they are, and other countries' numbers have spiked and everything. Everything that we do is highly considered. That's why I said when the president pronounced the schools opening and say there is going to be a phased opening of schools, and he said, let's start with those that are writing exams now, that need to write exams. Those ones need to go to attend a few classes, and then they attend their exams, and so that life goes on. Let's talk about those who are going to who are in their final years of something. They have to go and do. That's phased, and we calculate and see whether in each class we have the right numbers. Do we have the right teacher-student ratio in each class? That's why he said we are not going to use a one-size-fits-all approach, but we are going to ensure that the parents, the teachers, and all stakeholders, health authorities and education authorities, come and sit down to consider each and every school's circumstances and say, okay, in this school, what we have in place, is it safe to open this school? When everybody's agreed that school will open, and the next, and the next, and the next. In this school, we have one teacher to 60 students. It's not possible. What do we do with the rest of the students? We want to bring it down maybe to 1 to 15. So we are going to ask the local authorities to provide us with that hall. We are going to ask that school with an extra class to provide us with a school, with a classroom. We are going to ask, and so on and so forth. But again, those are nuances which depend on each and every school. And we are going to ensure that it's going to be done that way, so that the details are not coming from a top down. The details are so localized. It's the parent who actually says, I think what we have put in place together assures me that my son is going to be safe in your school. My daughter is going to be safe.
Let's look at the economic side. I understand the negative impact, of course, that came up with the COVID-19 pandemic, and has affected almost the whole globe.
Sure.
But in the Zimbabwean context, the parallel market rates seem to be running away. and equally prices of basic commodities are following the same.
Correct.
And given your 2 weeks directive that you gave to retailers and the business community to reduce prices of basic commodities, they haven't listened to you. Why?
It wasn't a directive.
But VP Mohad's directed that retailers should reduce prices of basic commodities.
See, when I tell you it wasn't a directive, then I think this is a point where you have to ask me, what was it? Then I tell you what it was, because I was there, and I've got the documents. It wasn't a directive. What actually happened is the retailers, the whole value chain, met up with government, and government said, can we sustain these prices? And everybody agreed. There was a consensus between in the whole value chain, including manufacturers, that the price, they could go back to the prices. I think it was the prices of the 25th of March. Yeah. So it was an agreement. There was no law. There was no statutory instrument. So you can't give a directive you can't enforce. You have to be able to enforce. That's why at every time we do something about COVID, we gazette a statutory instrument. But in this particular case, everything was by consensus. So people reneged on that consensus somewhere along the value chain. But it was a certain number of commodities. It wasn't everything. It was a certain number of basic commodities, between 5 and 7 basic commodities. So it was the milling meal, the sugar, the cooking oil, and so on and so forth. Everything else was not touched. People sustained those for a little while, and unfortunately, they started skyrocketing again in price.
Why is this happening?
Partly greedy. That's the big part of it. And like you're rightly saying, the parallel market is running riot.
The RBZ boss Mangwana said there is a demon which is causing all these instabilities. Do you share the same sort?
I'm not religious, so I don't believe in demons or angels.
But this is the coming out from the RBZ boss.
And only the RBZ can expand on what he said. I said I'm not religious.
Well, I am asking this because previously you were holding on to the fact that these instabilities are caused by sanctions.
The sanctions play a very critical role.
But which guy is saying there is a demon?
I said Dr. Mangwana can speak for himself, but I will speak for myself and I'll speak for government. I'm saying sanctions too play a very critical role, but there is also the human element within Zimbabwe, the greedy element, where greedy people are doing whatever they are doing, manipulating the currency. That can be discounted. It's a reality. Whether these people are doing this because they are demon possessed or not, that's for those who operate in that realm to unpack. I operate in the economics and in the real or in the physical realm, in which I'm telling you greedy people are manipulating our currency.
Let me just ask another party here. We have seen the new notes, the new $10 notes now. They are now flooding the streets. What is happening? Just 2 weeks?
What do you mean by flooding?
They are all over. They do have, if you walk in the streets, money changers, they do have that money. Why is this happening?
There is nothing wrong with people having money, because what we are doing is we are replacing digital money with physical money. So if you have money, instead of that money being in your account or in a digital format on a phone, that money is in your pocket. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But yes, there's a lot wrong with informal money changing. To say why do people have money? Well, people should have money. Do you have some of the money yourself?
Yes, I do have some notes.
Yeah, reasonable amount, isn't it?
Yeah, reasonable amount. But
and I don't have any notes.
Talking of bricks, these money changers are holding in the streets. Where is this money coming from?
I would want to imagine somebody in the banking sector is very corrupt.
These are the demons that Mangwana is talking about.
You see, I don't know why you are interested in the paranormal. You are so interested in this stratospheric stuff. I'm telling you, I don't deal with the metaphysical, I deal with the physical. Here what we have is people that are greedy. I don't know whether for somebody to be greedy, they have to be demon possessed. For somebody to be corrupt, they have to be demon possessed. I don't know about that, but I don't believe it. I just believe somebody can be greedy, somebody can be very, criminal in mind, somebody can be very inclined to do things which are, contrary to the interests of everybody and the common good. And that's all I believe in.
That leads me into the next question, because this issue of the parallel market rate is as I said, has caused the price of basic commodities to go beyond the reach of many, and many people can't secure food at the table. And the government was applauded when it pledged that it was coming with an alternative to help vulnerable groups of people. Yeah. I just wanted to find out how much is it dispersed as of today?
I can't tell you the amount, but I spoke to my colleagues in social welfare, and I've been told so far 201 families have benefited from the social grant, besides the food and everything that's being given out. But the social grant is 201 people.
What is the cost, if you can estimate at least how much is it dispersed right now?
In terms of the money, yes, the amount. Well, I know that the figure is ranged from 183 to 300 now. So 201 people have benefited, 201,000 people rather, have benefited so far. You do the maths.
I'm asking this, PEMSEC, because I have came into contact with some people who are feeding on worms, and I'm sure you have seen that story, because they can't secure food, and this is a vulnerable group of people. Why is the government not looking into these issues?
The government is looking into these issues, and it's trying by all means to protect the vulnerable, and we have put a lot of social protection measures in place, but we haven't moved probably fast enough, because every time we try to do something, there are some people who do not deserve, who are not actually in dire need, who come in, and so we are trying to ensure that the system has integrity, and only the people that deserve will get. So that process has been a bit slow, but we have done quite a bit, Costa. I think nobody in the region has rounded up and given some people to stay the way we did with the people that were living on the street, and the kids that were working and living on the street, which we have reunited with families, and the people who were destitute on the street, we have put in places and fed and ensuring that they were safe. We have done our bit, but it's definitely not good enough at this point, because there are still people that are experiencing hardship. But we are doing our utmost to ensure that those people have something on their table.
How would you feel on your personal level if you come into contact with someone who sleeps with an empty stomach, and the following day that person feeds on some worms?
I feel a lot of empathy.
Okay, because this is one of the things why people are breaking lockdown regulations. Because it's because of hunger, and we have seen what happened last week. But MDC activists staged a demonstration in Warren Park, and they were saying it is because the people are hungry. Government has to do something.
And the government is doing something. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying we're disbursing. We're trying to accelerate our disbursements of the social grant to the vulnerable families.
I want us to get to the last part of our discussion, but let me just find out, why is the government so quick to conclude that the recently alleged abduction of MDC Alliance youth members is a staged managed theatre?
Well, the government did not say it was stage managed. The government said it wasn't responsible. You see, we got three scenarios here. Number one, which the government has to work with. Number one is staged. Scenario number one. Scenario number two, there is a third force from within, the remnants of the old regime that did this. Maybe. Scenario number three, there is actually a combination of these remnants within and the opposition working together to smear the government. We don't know which one is the correct one. That's why we're investigating. But one thing that we're very sure of, government did not sanction this, so we didn't do this.
PEMSEC, let me just share with you, I was in Parliament last week, what Justice Minister Honorable Ziambi said. What we have noticed is, and I quote this direct, what we have noticed is, of late some people have started looking for relevance where it is not. I think the whole government was busy trying to work towards averting the corona pandemic, and some people became very irrelevant, and they started creating these stories which have not been substantiated. That is a conclusion.
Well, that's not that's a theory, but also you tell me, because among the people that were leading the demonstration, none of them looked very hungry, none of them was hungry. So the people that were leading the so-called hunger demonstration, really the timing in these COVID days, why was it timed that way? This is what the minister is talking about, to say people decided to look for relevance. And why would somebody leave their constituents, go across to a completely different constituency, and then lead a demonstration there? You've got the people that elected to represent you and represent their interests. Why have you decided not only doing that, those people do not involve the local MP or the local councillor, who is actually responsible for those people that are meant to be demonstrating? I think the minister is onto something here. But that's different. This is the political relevance we're talking about, or the craving for political relevancy. But when it comes to this particular investigation, I do not want to preempt it, because as far as I know, and I know one thing or two, there is actually an ongoing, very serious investigation to establish what actually happened or what did not happen. So I would not rush to preempt a conclusion which I don't have. But what I know is the investigators are following the evidence, and the evidence will lead us somewhere. And the nation will know. I can assure you of that. The nation will know what happened or what did not happen.
Why is it that you don't want to give enough time to investigations? Because you are raising issues of third force.
We are giving time. You are coming to me with the questions. What do you want me to do? Ignore your questions? I'm answering your questions, and then you say, why are you not giving time? You are not the one who is giving time. If you wanted to give time, you would avoid that question and say, you know what? A criminal case may appear out of this one. Let's skate around it. But you're not skating around it. You want government to articulate itself, and rightly so, to speak to the citizens, and rightly so. And government is speaking to the citizens, Costa. Government is saying, we didn't do this.
I know why it is suspected. It is alleged.
Do you know why? Why?
No, I'm saying we do have some examples previously. I can give you in a case of Justina Mkoko, and the state has compensated here. You know the Justina Mkoko case, and I think because of that,
and there are no similarities between the Justina Mkoko and these cases, because when Justina Mkoko came, she was brought to court. She appeared in court. These appear to be just vindictive cases, if they happened, that somebody is just taken, blasted around, and left in the middle of nowhere. Are they similar? No, they're not similar. Give me a similar case where the state, you see, when people are mimicking something, they want to reflect or mirror a certain event. They don't get it right, because this one it's completely different.
You and me are aware of what is obtaining on social media, and the opposition is threatening flash demonstrations. And how is the government prepared to respond to this?
Flash demonstrations in the middle of a COVID lockdown. The people will be arrested. It's a simple. People are breaking the law. I was telling you that whenever government put in measures, they gazette, and we gazette a law, and there are laws to protect people. We cannot allow such irresponsible behavior. So if people break the law, Costa, people will have to account for themselves in court.
Well, let me just find out another item here regarding the arrest of people who would have broken the COVID-19 regulations. Does it also involve the police assaulting citizens?
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. If anybody has practiced or exercised some excesses, then they should account. And I think we've seen people accounting in Blawayo. That's when why people were arrested in Blawayo.
Then that also indicates that there is a lack of professionalism in our police force.
That reflects that there is criminality among human beings. Because if you have, say, for example, 30,000 police officers, they are human beings, so there will be criminality. In America, we see people being bashed every day, including last night, people were being bashed, black people. Criminal behavior among, or should we say there is lack of discipline among American police. In Britain, they have internal police commission, again, independent police commission. Why? Because police officers commit crimes. If we go to China, the same. If we go to South Africa, they invest. There is a unit that investigates police officers. It's not peculiar to Zimbabwe.
Lastly, I think it's an opportunity for you to give a message to the Zimbabweans. I don't know, maybe it could be a message of hope to the Zimbabweans vis-a-vis the COVID-19 pandemic. I have read that we have now 25 recoveries, and I mean, out of 56 confirmed cases. Your message to the people of Zimbabwe regarding this pandemic?
I think the thing that I have to say to the Zimbabwean people is we have done very well as a nation. Not one single person is responsible for this success we've had. By all the calculations that we've had, we should have been around over 10,000 infections, but we've kept them so low, despite the fact that we still have said people should come home, because this is their home, their only home. I think we need to give ourselves a round of applause as a nation, and we continue to rally together and work as communities, as individuals, as families together, because we contained this and we can continue to contain this. So far we've lost 4 of our citizens, which is tragic, but it could have been more if we hadn't done the things that we're doing right. And let's continue to do the right things. Wear your mask, social distance, and stay safe.
Secretary, it was nice talking to you.
It's always nice talking to you, Costa. Thank you.
Thank you guys for following. We were speaking to the Permanent Secretary of Information, Mr. Nick Mangwana, on the topical issues, the COVID-19, the human rights, allegations of human rights abuses, and among other issues, including the running away parallel market rate and the increase of basic commodities in the country. And he has shared his message of hope of COVID-19 to the people of Zimbabwe. Until next time, thank you for following. Don't forget to like our Facebook page, newszimbabwe.com, and also log on to our website, www.newszimbabwe.com, for more of these stories in greater detail.